Lucky Boys Podcast.
You were very close to the violence, very close to, I guess you had front row seats to the show, right? And what was that like growing up and seeing these gangs? Was it as tough as people think it is, or is it a lot milder?
I wish I was not in the front row. I wish I was taking the back row, to be honest with you. I witnessed that because I got picked on by Asian gangs, and I hated it. I'll say it was I got picked on by Ghost Shadows. My parents said, stay away from them. Don't go to pool halls. You're going to get in trouble. But I just want to shoot pool. So I was with my white friend, and I did not connect with any Asian people at all. Because I live in Queens, so it's very kind of suburban, really white, you know. Not now, it's really diverse. So I got picked on, and I hated that feeling. I hated that feeling of just being powerless, not able to defend myself. And next you know, like a year or two later, I was like, I just gotta make more connections. And I met someone who's like, hey, I'm in this gang, you want to hang with our crew, you want to roll with us? And I was like, yeah, why not? But it wasn't just joining a gang, it was just building that friendship, just try to connect to more people. So I started hanging out Flushing more. And at first it was just a bunch of teenagers from freshman high school, sophomore high school, hanging out at the pool halls, arcades, rocking the beepers that we were talking about. Before cell phones, you know, we had to carry a bunch of quarters just to connect to people. It's like, hey, Will, we're at so-and-so, come down. It's like, you know, whatever. And if you can't find the people, you know where they're going to be at. They're going to be at that pool hall all the time, cutting school. And then it got worse. It got a little competitive. More gangs were like trying to go over each other's territories, like Ghost Shadows, MMP, Flying Dragons. It was just getting a little bit ridiculous. And it was
so all of those gangs were in Queens, Flushing? Because a lot of people think of Chinatown gangs, they think of New York City, Chinatown, Manhattan. Mm-hmm. They don't think about Queens.
I mean,
and this is happening in a suburb in Queens, you're saying.
I mean, Flushing, it's not what it is now. I mean, before it was very Jewish, and I think it went from Taiwanese to Korean. Now it's Fujian people living there. And it's very, very, you know, Chinatown-like. But yeah, I mean, there was a movie out there, Revenge of the Green Dragons, which some of our friends were in it. So there are some Queens gangs in Elmhurst. But Flushing, it was transitioning. They were called the Queens Ghost Shadow, you know. So they were located there. And then there was the TB, Taiwanese Boys.
Were they all made up of the same members in New York City, Manhattan, Chinatown? Or was they just like a separate sector?
Some separate sector. Like from what I remember, there was some gang lieutenants. They're like, well, if you're in Flushing, why don't you get your own boys? Like, we'll give you 10 lang jais. So they did that.
What's lang jai for people listening?
Soldiers.
Okay.
You know, like foot soldiers. People just do the grunt work. You know, collect extortion or beat up that person. You looked at my girl differently. Whatever. Which is most of the case. I'm like, just staring problems. But yeah, it was like mostly it was Ghost Shadows first, and then it started drifted because from what I heard, like there was a gang called TB, and then they broken up, and then they started either joining Ghost Shadows, some maybe White Tigers, and then some to MMP, this new gang. MMP was saying Moming Pai, means no name gang, because they didn't have a name. And you can tell because they're always dressed in black. That was their first rule. Black pants, black shirt, you know. So, and Ghost Shadow was like, you had to dress a little bit of red and stuff just to color code yourself, like which gang you were from. Even the hair color. And I remember it was very popular. Bangs up to here, to the chest, you know, shaved head, you know.
The undercut.
Yeah.
With the mushroom haircut, or eventually, I think they had like the shaved top but the long front.
Yeah, it's like freaking Guile from Street Fighter.
Yeah.
So,
did the haircut like signify like which specific gang a person would belong to?
No, not really. But it did tell people, oh, you're a Feijia, you're a bad boy. You know, like you're a gangster.
Most of them look like this. Most of them have this type of hairstyle, hair color, because they all kind of. I would even say the accent. Some of them would speak a certain way, and you would kind of get an idea of where they were.
So it was like a uniform, almost.
Almost, but even everyone had like a certain way of speaking, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can tell people from Brooklyn, from Chinatown.
Right.
But clothing wise, it's funny. You can tell if they're from Chinatown or FD because they wear taper pants. That they were tight.
Right.
Because Queens lot, they were rocking the Jinkos, like the loose fit, like the wide legs.
Baggy jeans.
Yeah, to cover your feet. And, you know, our parents would be saying, wow, they mate ya. Like, are you mopping the floor with those pants? You know, but it was easy to carry like machetes and baseball bats in there.
Right.
It was functional. It was functional. It was functional clothing.
People would keep stuff, and these were like Jinko or Request jeans. And for those of you guys that don't know what that is, just you can Google it. But there's extremely wide-legged pants from the top, and I think what made it famous originally were intended for skateboarders or people that rollerblade.
And I think K-pop at the time also had a little influence too.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, because a lot of all the girls back then Flushing, they all like.
Who was this popular K-pop? They were like the BTS of HOT. HOT. Yeah, they're like the BTS of back in the day.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, what was great about Flushing and Chinatown, but Flushing mostly, like they would have video stores, music stores. So they just didn't just sell Chinese music; they sell Korean. So then a lot of the Chinese people were like getting into the K-pop, you know. And then he's like, "Oh my God, who's this pretty boy with the long bangs and his dyed?" And then all of a sudden, us Asian Americans start imitating that style, and you see him wearing the wide and the over baggy. So it was kind of weird, you know. It's like, are we dressing as Asian Americans or K-pop?
Right.
But yeah.
So then you got this whole section of Asians have this real old school look, tapered, slim fit jeans. What's popular now?
Yeah,
right?
those
guys were ahead of their time.
It's coming back,
right?
Yeah,
those guys were ahead of their time, and then you have this whole new era of kids wearing big, wide-legged jeans, long bangs, colored, looking. You know, I think if people saw someone like that right now, they would kind of go like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It's funny. One of our actors in A Father's Son. I mean, you both saw it and stuff. Joey, Simon, except for Sean. I purposely asked them to get a new haircut because they all had long hair. Sean had this Jang Ekin, the actor from Hong Kong. He was in Young and Dangerous, Guwachai. I was like, he looks like Ekin Chen a little bit with the hair. And then Joey had already this Jackie Chan old school haircut. So I went to say, hey, I want to get you guys a haircut and mimic the style. So we went to the barber, and I asked the barber, like, do you remember the 90s? They're like, yeah. Remember the gold hair? You know, like Fei Jai? They're like, yeah. I want you to do that. And they were like, really? I was like, yeah. So they dyed it hair, kept it long, they shaved the side a little bit. And Joey was rocking that in Chinatown for a while. And some of these old people were looking like,
oh, yeah?
But they recognized that from that time.
It repelled them? Like,
it repelled them,
like,
yeah. They were like this shocked, like, you bring this back and stuff?
Yeah.
And
and you know, I think people listening, just hearing like that they've never seen that look before, they go like, that looks weird or fruity or all this other stuff. But I promise you guys, back in the day, that look, people would like get repelled. They would get, I guess, intimidated because they would know that a person that looks like that is likely to be affiliated. And like you were saying, if you even make the wrong eye contact, they would attack you or assault you for any reason.
Lucky Boys Podcast.